Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Bruce Matty Weitzman, and I'm the academic head of the International BA Liberal Arts Program. And I'd like to, at this point, call to the podium our honored guests who will sit at what's called the presidential table, beginning with Vice Rector Professor Eyal Zisser, the Dean of the Humanities Faculty, Professor Leo Khoury, Associate Dean for Administration, Ms. Nira Sherman, and our guest speaker tonight, not as is written in the program, but our guest speaker tonight, the Honorable Professor Meir Shachar. Thank you. Well, welcome. And now I think let us all rise and welcome the class of 2018. Please be seated. Thank you. This is fun. Yes. Okay. This hat is, oh, thank you. You've taken your hat off. That's a sign that I can take mine off too. Good. Okay, thank you. Ceremonies such as these and life cycle events in general are both a time to celebrate and a time to take stock. Jewish tradition encourages this, teaches us that the world is not whole, as if we didn't know it. Indeed, the conclusion of a Jewish wedding ceremony involves the breaking of a glass, signifying the imperfect nature of this world. But Jewish tradition also commands us to do our part in trying to fix its imperfections, a concept known as tikkun olam. On this festive occasion, and as you approach the end of your studies in our program, first of all, I want to take the opportunity, speaking to the graduates, to congratulate you on your achievement. As you well know, earning a BA degree at Tel Aviv University necessitates a hard work and serious intellectual commitment, and we are proud that you will soon join the ranks of Tel Aviv University graduates with a degree from Israel's leading faculty of humanities. And as you move forward in the coming years, we are confident that your accomplishment will contribute to your continued success. I hope and believe that each of you have now acquired some of the skills necessary that are essential both for your own private pursuit of happiness and meaning in life, and for engaging each in your own way in tikkun olam. Particularly at this charged moment in time, a time in which serious challenges are being posed everywhere to democratic institutions and their accompanying values of tolerance, respect, and compassion for all human beings, for all living things, and indeed for this precious planet of ours. And finally, in my one little bit of advice to you, graduates, I urge you to take to heart the words of America's supreme rock and roller, singer-songwriter, my namesake, Bruce Springsteen, as he sang, "The sun rises up, I climb the ladder, the new day breaks, and I'm working on a dream. So keep working on your dreams." To continue with our greetings, I'd like to introduce, first of all, my longtime colleague in the Department of Middle Eastern and African History and the Moshe Dayan Center for Middle Eastern Studies, and Vice Rector of Tel Aviv University, Professor Eyal Zisser. who is the holder of the Yona and Dina Ettinger Chair in Contemporary History of the Middle East and is an internationally recognized expert on the modern history of the region and particularly Syria and Lebanon. Professor Zisser, please.
Thank you, Bruce. Dean Corey, Associate Dean Sherman, Professor Mehdi Weizman, Professor Shachar, dear friends, colleagues, family members, and you, the graduates of this year, class 2018. I'm honored to come and to convey to you the best wishes of Tel Aviv University, which is very proud of this program and of you, the graduates, and of your academic achievements. This program is about becoming global, and this is a need, but also what we see is a mission, a dream and a mission of Tel Aviv University, and I would like to use this opportunity and thank you for helping us realizing the dream and fulfilling this mission. Tel Aviv University is the biggest research university in Israel with around 30,000 students studying in various faculties and departments. But it is also one of the leading research centers, research universities in Israel and abroad. And I'm sure you had the opportunity to learn more about Israel and about this university and what this university can offer you. I would like to thank on your behalf the faculty and the program for the commitment, for the hard work during the last year. I would like to thank on our behalf the family members who send you here, supported you, and follow your studies. And above all, I would like to thank you, the graduates, for choosing Tel Aviv, for coming to study in our university. I would like to ask you to become ambassadors of goodwill for Tel Aviv University. And I wish, I'm sure, that we'll see you all in the coming years in our various program of advanced studies in this faculty. So once again, thank you for coming to Tel Aviv University. Thank you for wonderful achievements, and I wish us all a wonderful and successful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zisser. Our next greetings will be delivered by my immediate boss, Professor and Dean Leo Corey, Dean Corey is the Bert and Barbara Cohen Professor of History and Philosophy of Science in the Faculty of Humanities. He came to Tel Aviv University after receiving his BA at Universidad Simón Bolívar in Caracas, Venezuela. And when he then came and joined our community and did his studies here, Professor Corey is a world-renowned expert in the history of math and of numbers, and his interests are, again, broad and deep, including the subjects of research, including the intellectual world of Albert Einstein and of Jorge Luis Borges. And please, Dean Corey, the floor is yours.
My dear friends, Professor Eyal Zisser, Professor Bruce Mehdi Weitz, Ms. Nira Sherman, Professor Meir Shachar, who will give a great talk today, as usual, dear colleagues in the faculty, dear guests and relatives, and above all, dear students. This is the time of the year when students, teachers, and administrative staff at our faculty meet together in festive academic ceremonies of various kinds. Many academic colloquia are organized with guests from abroad. Local academic conferences are organized by graduate students who work on similar disciplines or on similar fields of inquiry. Sometimes we also organize farewell conferences to honor colleagues who are retiring after long and productive academic careers. And there are, of course, the graduation ceremonies in all of our programs of study. Over the last 4 years, the International BA in Liberal Arts at the Entin Faculty of Humanities at Tel Aviv University has been celebrating its end-of-program graduation ceremony. Among all the many ceremonies that we have in campus, this is certainly unique in its spirit, and it's particularly colorful and joyful. At Tel Aviv University and at our Faculty of Humanities, we are particularly glad and proud to be able to celebrate with you in this graduation ceremony, and to be able to watch this selected group of talented young people who, from now on, are also our ambassadors to the world. My dear friends, it is customary nowadays to talk about the crisis in the humanities. I find it hard, however, to imagine that the students of our international program, speaking about the years that they spent here at the Faculty of Humanities, will do so in terms of experiencing some kind of crisis. The Hebrew word for humanities, as you probably know, is Madai HaRuach, namely that part of the academic world that is devoted to the study of the human spirit in all its manifestation and all that it has created throughout history. In these terms, it may be fair to say that rather than a crisis in the humanities, there is indeed a crisis, but it is a crisis in the human spirit and what it is creating nowadays in the world at large. And fortunately, we can also speak about a worrisome crisis in the spirits of our own Israeli society. Over the last years, we have witnessed truly disturbing political, social, and cultural processes that challenge some of our most basic values and beliefs about the meaning of an open democracy and the role of the academia and the media in our society. This is a global process with particular manifestations in each local context. We have witnessed the introduction of terms such as fake news or alternative facts that have become standard and are even accepted as a matter of course, with little resistance and sometimes even with a smile. Such concepts manifest themselves in the actions of our politicians, public opinion makers, and culture icons, and are present in our day-to-day lives. And we have yet to understand their deep meaning if we want to be able to meet the challenge that they pose. In the Israeli context, we have witnessed unprecedented attacks on the freedom of speech in the media, in the arts, and also in the academic world. I believe that education in the liberal arts continues to be one of the most efficient weapons with which young people can hope to start their adult lives in this very challenging world that we are experiencing nowadays. Israeli youngsters typically start their studies at the ages of 22 to 24. And in these circumstances, they face some critical questions when the time comes for choosing a course of studies. In a sense, most of you, my dear students, did not have to face the same dilemmas given the age when you were able to start your studies. And the case is that you chose to study in our program. I am sure that you do not regret it for a moment. I think, moreover, that in retrospect, in a few years from now, you will be able to look back with satisfaction and to realize that this may have been one of the most crucial and successful decisions you took in this part of your life. Our program, your group of students, counts 21. 15 are from the US, and some of them Israeli-born citizens of the United States who returned here. We have 1 Italian, 1 Romanian, 2 Canadians, and 2 Chinese. For next year, we are preparing ourselves to receive here at least 20 students who will come. I saw you here. And I saw your family, so shame on me. India, of course. You are not written, but you are in front of my eyes, which is more important.
You haven't heard the last of it.
And for next year, as I said, we already have 20 registered students, including some of countries that we have not yet received in this program, like Hungary, Spain, and Zimbabwe. And we expect still for more. I hope we have been able to provide to our students, and in particular to you, dear students who are graduating today, with the tools that may prove decisive in the challenging and interesting big world waiting for you out there. We believe that we have given you tools as well as inspiration, and that you will take active part in the creation of an atmosphere of open, critical dialogue that will foster tolerance and will reject violence in the Israeli society or wherever you will choose to establish yourself. Before finishing my short speech, let me tell you the following. Good things do not just happen. Some people have to work hard in order for them to happen. And this is true for your program too. So part of this hard work is done in our faculty under the direction of Ms. Nira Sherman and her team. We have the office, of course, of the program, who is directly responsible for what happens in the program. And this includes, of course, Ayelet, Efrat, Lee. And then we have the people who have been responsible academically for the program. Here we have Professor Milet Shamir, who founded the program, Professor Andrea Rothstein, who was the second director of the program. And now I take special pleasure to thank Professor Bruce Madi Weiss for having taken this important challenge, which is so dear to us in the faculty. So thank you to you all. We wish you, my students, success wherever you go, and we wish to see you again over here. Thank you very much.
First of all, I want to thank Dean Corey, and I have to apologize in advance for Professor Ziz and Professor Corey, because they will have to leave soon to attend another event. But before I do that, I want to say that amen to just about every word that you said, and in the next election, I'm voting for Dean Corey. So I think good things don't just happen. You have to work at it, and I think you're ready to make the leap. I'm in. You stole my thunder a little bit just now, but I'm going to repeat just for a moment in recognition of some of the people that have made this all possible. My immediate predecessor, Professor Andrea Rothstein, who left me a wonderful program that I was able to just step right into with her help. Thank you, Andrea. Professor Milet Shamir, who's now Assistant Dean for Academic Affairs, who sweated blood to found this program and accompanied it through all the trials and tribulations. Thank you. Dr. Robin Began Shochat, who I haven't seen, but he. Oh, there you are. Yeah, so modest up there. Yes, who has served this year not only as a valued lecturer in our program, but as academic advisor to all of you and to everyone, and has made my life incredibly easy because of his great work. Thank you, Maureen Meyer, the director of Tel Aviv University International, who we work very, very closely with every day, all hours of the day and night. And of course, the indefatigable, devoted, and professional staff of the program, without whom nothing could have happened. Efrat, Polak, Lichen, and thanks to the staff, your staff downstairs and nearest staff, and also, and last but not least, the program's director, the one and only Ayelet Shacham. And now, actually, we have a little bit, before that, I want to welcome also some of our professors who are here, and also some of our graduates in recent years who've come back to share in the joy of their friends receiving their moment, having their moment in the sun or in the air conditioning, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, welcome, and of course to all the families as well. Now we're going to have a little bit of a musical interlude. We have two of our first-year students on the guitar, Harrison Day, and on the vocals. Harrison is from the U.S., and on the vocals from Brazil, Yasmine Franceschi, and Franceschi, I'm sorry, but you know my Portuguese is not great. And they're going to perform a song for us right now. I'll give the title of the song afterwards. Thank you. Wow. What? Look at the talent that we've got here. Thank you. We're going to hear more from them in a bit. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll invite you back for another song. Thank you. Okay, going to let you in on a little secret. Yesterday at about 4 p.m., I received an alarming email from our designated guest speaker who had agreed to speak at this event back in, I think, November. And everything was all lined up, and there was a message that it was an SOS or something to that effect. High fever, flu, loss of voice. It's a non-starter. It was going to be a non-starter for our speaker today. And so we entered into a brief panic mode. But thankfully, we're able to sort of calm the nerves because Professor Meir Shachar, a dear friend who's currently professor of Chinese studies at the department, in the Department of East Asian Studies, agreed in what we call in around the world, outside of America, injury time. That's a soccer, football, that's a term for the Americans, the provincial Americans in our audience. Injury time, that is to say the clock is about to expire and we're all about to be, we're injured. And Professor Shachar kindly agreed to step up. He was an American and now back to American sports. Step up to the plate, and I'm sure he's going to hit a home run too. Professor Shahar's research interests include the interplay of Chinese religion and Chinese literature, Chinese martial arts history, esoteric Buddhism, and the impact of Indian mythology on the Chinese pantheon of divinity. As you can see, just by his research interests, as you might expect, there are few people who possess the breadth and depth of civilizational and cultural knowledge that Professor Shachar possesses, and we look forward to your address. Please welcome Professor Meir Shachar.
Thank you very much, Bruce, for your kind word. And dear graduating students, dear family members, dear guests, it is always a great pleasure to congratulate a wonderful group of young, promising, graduating students. But it is a particular pleasure to congratulate students who traveled far in the search of knowledge. You all came here from far away countries. To be sure, learning always involves travel or journey, if not in the body, at least in the mind. If I'm an astronomer, for example, I'm interested in the stars, so I journey in my imagination to the remote recesses of the universe. I see the corners of the universe in my imagination. Or if I'm interested, for example, in literature, in Indian literature, let us say, and I read the Mahabharata, this great epic, this great Indian epic. So the epic is a vehicle that enables me to travel far in time and in space to ancient India, and I can encounter there, via the epic, through the epic, I can encounter the people that lived in India thousands of years ago. I can learn about their customs, their belief, their worldview, their morality. So every form of study involved journeying, travel. But you didn't only travel in the imagination. You actually traveled in your very bodies. You left homes far away, I understand, in China and India and America and Canada, and came all the way to this little country of ours, to Israel, to study. And I thought, therefore, that in your honor, because you are so courageous and you came from such far away places here, I should tell you about two other persons, two other individuals who, like you, just like you, traveled very far in search of knowledge. So what I'm going to talk about today are the stories of two people who, like you, were overseas students, like you, traveled far. And the first one, but I think I did something wrong. I didn't press well I don't have the light. You will see him probably in a minute. Probably it comes slowly. I think it's beginning there. Yeah, it will be there. It should be coming on. So, yeah. It's okay. We are not in a rush. So, here we go. So the first individual I wanted to introduce you to tell you his life story, is a person called Matteo Ricci. Matteo Ricci, he was an Italian. Matteo Ricci. Those of you who come from China, I'm sure, are familiar with him. His Chinese name is Lima Do. Matteo Ricci. He was an Italian who lived in the 16th century, 400 years earlier than you, 400 years before you. And he was a Catholic missionary. As you know, the 16th century was the period of the great discoveries, of the great geographical discoveries. In 1492, correct me if I'm wrong, 1492, Columbus landed in America and discovered the New World for Europeans. Of course, it was always there, but he discovered it for the Europeans. And 5 years later, Vasco da Gama. Yeah, we have here people from Portugal, yes?
Brazil.
Yeah, from Brazil.
Brazil. Overseas Portugal.
Yeah, so Vasco da Gama sailed from Lisbon eastward around the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, discovering the sea route to India. And very shortly after that, in the 16th century, there emerged the great Catholic empires controlling the Americas on the one hand and Southeast Asia on the other hand. So the world opened for Christianity. And the burning mission of the day, from the perspective of the Christian church, was to Christianize the people of the New World that was discovered, to Christianize the Indians and the Chinese and the Native Americans, yes, to bring the words, the light of Jesus around the world. And for that purpose, the Vatican established in 1540 a special order, an elite order of intellectual monks, people who were very highly learned and dedicated. And their role, they were called the Society of Jesus, they are known as the Jesuits, and their role, or they took it upon themselves to go to the corners of the earth, following the order of the Pope, to Christianize people everywhere around the world, as far as you can go. And Matteo Ricci, the person I'm telling you about, was one of them. His mission was China. Now, and he arrived there. He arrived to China in the 16th century. The journey from Lisbon to China took him 4 years. It took him 4 years, yes? It was not an easy journey. Once he was in China, Matteo Ricci, writing a letter to his father in Italy, when he wrote a letter to his father in Italy, he was hoping to receive an answer no earlier than 3 years, yes? So he always complained about it, yes? That when he writes a letter, he doesn't even know if the people he's writing to are still alive, yes? And in fact, traveling such a long distance for such a difficult mission, I think he knew rather early on that he's not going to go back. He went to China to stay there. And indeed, Matteo Ricci died in China. He's buried in Beijing, and you can visit his tomb in Beijing. Now, what was his achievement? Let me first of all say this. We know of no European who knew Chinese, who knew to read and write Chinese prior to Matteo Ricci. Speaking Chinese, well, this shouldn't interest all of you, unless you decide to take your MA in China, yes, follow your BA here. But speaking Chinese is not so hard. You can learn it. But to read and write is quite difficult. Yes? You know this, yes? In Chinese, there are many, many characters. It takes many, many years of study. Chinese children spend many hours every day since early childhood until the age of 18 just learning the characters. People who arrived to China, Europeans who arrived to China before Matteo Ricci, didn't bother to learn the written Chinese language. At least we know of no one who did. You know, of course, who visited China before Matteo Ricci? Which European? Marco Polo, yes? Marco Polo didn't know, yeah? What do you say? Correct, yes. You're absolutely right. Marco Polo. Marco Polo didn't know Chinese, as far as we know, yeah? He didn't know Chinese. He certainly couldn't read and write Chinese. But Matteo Ricci, in order to spread the Christian faith, took it upon himself to study the Chinese language. And he was apparently a linguistic genius. People say that he could look at a book, a Chinese book, yes, a written Chinese page with hundreds of characters, read it once, and then write it back from the last character to the first, yes. So he really had a remarkable gift for languages. By the way, he was very interested in, what is the word in English, mnemonic techniques? Techniques of memorization. And he tried to appeal to the Chinese by teaching them his systems of memorization. You know that the Chinese, they spend their entire lives, the educated elite, as students, preparing to exams. You've heard about this? You know that in China, in order to become an important person, you had to pass exams, imperial exams, and then you would become a government official.
Even more difficult than our exams, I think.
Yes, I think so. I believe so. And Matteo Ricci tried to teach his friends in China his system of memorization to help them in their exams. But they said it was very hard to remember his system, so it didn't work. But anyway, so we are talking about a person who really mastered the Chinese language. And what did he do in China? What happened to him in China? Firstly, Matteo Ricci, he went there to spread Christianity. But what in fact he gave the Chinese was Western scientific knowledge. Here you see a picture of him, of Matteo Ricci, and you see that what he brought with him to China, it's a Chinese artist who painted this, and you see that there is a globe. There is a globe. The Westerner brought to China the knowledge that the world is round, and you can travel around it. There is a globe, and there is also an organ. He brought Western music, 16th century music, to China. He is dressed, by the way, in what, is this the uniform of a monk, of a Christian monk? Well, it's not. He's dressed in the costume of a Chinese learned literati, of a member of the Chinese elite. In other words, in China, Matteo Ricci became, what did he become? He became Chinese. He went to China to teach the Chinese Christianity, but what happened to him in China is that instead of being a teacher, in China he became a student. And in China he learned Chinese and became an admirer of Chinese culture. I will just mention, Bruce said that I teach Chinese, that I'm in the Department of Chinese Studies. We who study Chinese culture, are admirers of Matteo Ricci. He is the person who invented our profession, the profession of people who spend their lives reading Chinese texts, yes, trying to decipher or understand Chinese culture. So he learned Chinese culture, and he brought Western culture to China. So this is, for example, just to show you one example, a map of the world that he printed in China in the imperial palace. The emperor supported him, and he printed a map of the world. I don't know if you can see clearly. You can see Africa here on the left, yes, and Europe. The map is written in Chinese. He wrote it in Chinese, and he introduced to the Chinese the Western knowledge of the world, the knowledge that was gained in the 16th century. Here you see the other half of the map. You can see, perhaps not very clearly, the Americas, South America and North America. And this is another version of this map that he brought to China. This map was copied and printed in Japan. Very shortly after he brought this geographic knowledge to China, the map was transmitted to Japan, so the Japanese too learned how the world looks according to Western discoveries. And here is another example of what he did. He wrote a very important book, the first book in a Western language about China. The first book that describes in great detail China to Westerners. The book described, as it writes here, the custom, laws, principles of the Chinese kingdom. It was written in Latin, published in Europe, and shortly afterwards translated into French and German and all spoken European languages. So he played a major role in the cultural exchange between China and the West. And what is interesting is that when he tried to spread Christianity in China, he tried to correlate Western ideas, Western religious ideas, with Chinese ideas. He argued that, in fact, the Westerners, the Christians, and the Chinese hold similar beliefs. He argued, we may not necessarily accept his views, but he argued, Matteo Ricci, that he's merely bringing back to China knowledge of God that they already had. He argued that the Chinese, like the Westerners, already in their own writing, they described a God creator, a divine being controlling the world that is similar to the Western God. So in other words, he tried to show, not as he spent many, many years in China, he didn't try to bring to China superior Western knowledge, but rather he tried to argue that, in fact, the Chinese and the Westerners share the same knowledge. This was his argument. Am I clear, sort of? Or that was the argument. I would just mention, as in a passing comment, that he failed in his mission in China, not because the Chinese objected, but because the Vatican, the Pope, objected. When the Vatican learned how Chinese Matteo Ricci became in China, the Vatican objected to his activities in China. It is clear. For example, Matteo Ricci, I won't go into the details, he realized that, you know what the Chinese always do? The Chinese worship their ancestors, yes? When they eat a meal, they always offer part of the meal to their ancestors who passed away. Yes, it's a custom, they do it. So Matteo Ricci realized that you must allow the Chinese to continue this practice. You can't tell them that it's forbidden. And he tried to convince the Pope in Rome to accept the Chinese worship of their ancestors. But the Pope didn't agree, and this was essentially the end of the Jesuit mission in China. So he failed. So this is the first person I want to tell you about, a Catholic who traveled far from Europe to China in the 16th century and learned their Chinese and tried to bridge the gap between China and Europe. My second example is contemporary. It's a living person who is, in fact, very shy. I don't know if he would know that I'm talking about him now, he might even object. His name is Andrew Plaks. He's an American Jew from New York. He studied Chinese, like Matteo Ricci, but not in China, in America. He also traveled to China, in America. He went to Princeton, received a PhD from Princeton, received a job at Princeton University, became a full professor at Princeton, and he is one of the leading authorities worldwide on Chinese fiction of the 16th and 17th century. So he was born, by the way, in 1945, meaning that he's now 73 years old. But in addition to being a great sinologist, in addition to knowing Chinese and being very successful in his career as a scholar of China, he happens to be also a very committed Jewish believer and a Zionist. And so 10 or 20 years ago, he left Princeton and came to Israel. He left his job, he resigned formally and came here to Israel, and he has been teaching ever since as a sort of adjunct professor at the Hebrew University and also here in our department in Tel Aviv. You can meet him, those of you who are studying at Tel Aviv University now. And after coming to Israel, like Matteo Ricci, if you like, he dedicated himself to translation. Translation not from Chinese to Latin, as Matteo Ricci did, but from Chinese into Hebrew. And this is really remarkable. It is a remarkable feat, because Hebrew is not his native tongue. His native tongue is English. But he's very gifted with languages, perhaps like Matteo Ricci, like Limado. By the way, I forgot to say something about Matteo Ricci. Matteo Ricci, forgive me for going back to Matteo Ricci brought to China European clocks. He taught them how to build European timepieces. So he's worshipped in China to this day as the god of watchmakers. He's the god of watchmaker, yes. Anyway, but let me go back to Andrew Plax. So Andrew Plax translated works of Chinese philosophy into Hebrew, and as it happens, and I guess that's why yesterday when Bruce called me, I decided to speak about him. As it happens, just last week, he published the first volume, which you can see here on the right, of his translation that he's been working on for 10 years, a translation of the greatest Chinese novel ever. Which novel? The Honglou Meng. Yeah, if you ask any Chinese what is the most important work of Chinese literature, it is the Honglou Meng, The Dream of the Red Chamber. It is a remarkable novel, and I can tell you stories from it, but I don't know how much time we have.
I'm good.
It is a remarkable. It is a truly remarkable novel that contains fantastic love stories and a remarkable psychological analysis of human beings. And this novel is really the picture of an entire civilization. Yes, this novel. It is sort of the epitome of Chinese culture, and you can see the entire Chinese society of the 18th century in this novel. And Andrew Plax worked for 10 years now, not alone, with another excellent translation, Amira Katz, on translating it into Hebrew. And 3 days ago, in fact, 4 days ago, the first volume came out of the translation. And what is interesting about this translation is that, like Matteo Ricci, and I hope you forgive me for saying this, Andrew, if he knows that I'm saying this, if he learns that I said this, he very consciously, Andrew Plax, tries to discover similarities or resonance or affinity between the Chinese texts he's translating and classical Jewish rabbinical literature. In other words, if Matteo Ricci's project was to show that Christianity and Chinese culture are compatible, are essentially similar in some broad sense, Andrew Plax tries to argue that Jewish culture and Chinese culture are similar, that they have similar moral tenets, that they have a sort of a similar worldview. And therefore, when he translates from Chinese, he very consciously chooses Jewish terms to translate Chinese terms, yes, or terms with Jewish resonance when he translates. So, who was right? Andrew Plax, who compares Judaism and Chinese culture, or Matteo Ricci, who compared Christianity and Chinese culture? I'm not going to answer this question. I'm not going to answer this question. And we can certainly argue with both of them about certain arguments that they've been making, about certain points. We may disagree with them. But I think that, like all great scholars and all great travelers, and you are travelers because you came here from afar, both Andrew Plax and Matteo Ricci discovered that humans all around the world in different countries do share some basic foundation, that there is a human ground, a human foundation that is one way or another, the human experience is in some fundamental way similar across the world. And I'm sure that you, having come here to Israel, you have discovered this as well. You met people from other countries, and I think that you discovered that it is possible to communicate with people who were brought up in different societies, who have different worldview than yourself. And I'm sure that you didn't only study this, you will also teach this when you go back to your respective countries. So I wish to join my predecessor in wishing you all a great success in your future endeavors, and it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Well, I vote for you too. Some months ago, I asked Professor Shachar if he would be available to teach in our program next year, and I think you can see why I would have asked such a thing. Unfortunately, it was too late. His schedule was already full, but that request remains open. So expect some, what we call lachatz fizi matun, lachatz musari matun, some moderate pressure, but continuous too, because we very much hope you'll be able to join and teach in our program in the future. Now, let me. We're going to switch gears a little bit here now, and it's not about being a tough act to follow. It's something completely different, but no less wonderful. Our valedictorian, Kripa Gandioki, please.
Thank you. Yes, I am that one Indian in our batch graduating. Dean of the faculties who had to leave, head of the international program of the BA in Liberal Arts, dear professors, and our wonderfully supportive staff, Ayelet, Efrat, and Lee, dear families and friends, and of course to the stars of the evening, our graduates. This is going to be the most cherished moment of my life thus far. I've dreamt of it ever since I learned the word valedictorian. I'm so honored, and I must admit, quite overwhelmed this evening. I can't stop sweating. It doesn't seem that long ago that it was orientation day in October of 2015. Has it been 3 years already? There we were, all trying to hang out awkwardly, playing those ice-breaking games that the Mazrikim had set up. And now, as I see all of you sitting here in front of me in graduation hats, it brings me so much joy to see the path we have walked on together that has helped in turning young individuals into remarkable human beings who also came together as a close-knit family. A family it's going to be very hard to bid farewell to. I recall how overwhelmed we all were in the beginning. Remember our first day of classes? We had world masterpieces with Dr. Yuri, 4 hours of the Iliad and Odyssey, and all the while he took us to be master's students. Gosh, we were so lost. I'm sure that our liberal arts team is familiar with all the questions we students inevitably had regarding Moodle issues, registrations, classroom changes, cancellations, makeup classes, and whatnot. Yet we always managed to overcome all that because, and this is what I love the most about the program, despite all the chaos that ensues during the first week of every semester, everyone has been there for each other, helping out and sending notes and readings and frantically posting updates on our Facebook group, while our wonderful liberal arts staff worked tirelessly to create a supportive environment. Thank you, guys. Our ever-growing program truly embodies the spirit of all for one and one for all. It teaches us how to build relationships and rely on each other, how to work together as a community, and most importantly, how to respect each other's differences. Albert Einstein understood this when he said, "It is not so very important for a person to learn facts. It is not very important for a person to learn facts. For that, he does not really need a college. He can learn that from books. The value of a college education is not the learning of many facts, but the training of the mind to think. something that cannot be learned from textbooks. Ironically enough, it's a humanities student quoting a scientist, bringing home the fact that the basic purpose of any education is to liberate the human being to exercise their potential to the fullest. And this is exactly what this program has helped us all achieve. In this, I consider myself extremely fortunate to have been able to move to Israel in 2015 with my family, who's sitting at the back there, right after I graduated. Initially, I remember being very reluctant, telling my parents I'd rather remain behind and attain my BA and law degrees in India. As I stand here 3 years later, I can't thank them enough for convincing me to move to another country with them and studying at this university. Israel and Tel Aviv University has deeply enriched my life, enabling me to grow in ways that have given me tools to be more aware of the world around me and engage critically in discussions on subjects I would have never dreamt of being confident in. These 3 years have taught me not just the conventional things you learn when studying, but also, and perhaps even more importantly, to be compassionate, to maintain an open mind, and be myself. Spending these 3 years with people from all around the world, people whose cultural backgrounds differed so much from my own, has broadened my mind immeasurably and given me unique exposure to the world beyond my narrow horizons. My best friend is from Brazil. She taught me the invaluable lesson of accepting myself and being comfortable with things that don't belong to my culture. Naomi has also done the impossible and made philosophy interesting to me. And I so badly wish she were here right now. My circle of close friends also includes one of the kindest and most considerate persons I've met here. She's not graduating with us. It's a semester later, but Mai. She's... I remembered today that you're actually not graduating with us, but she started with us, and she's here to support us. She's half German, half Israeli, and was born and raised in Tokyo. Just shows the diversity of our program, I guess. I also have Sharon. I think she's not here today. She's my Mexican-Canadian Jewish friend who has been my sounding board and listened to my problems most patiently. I remember hanging out with students from China, Finland, and Romania during my first year here, when I was still naive and getting accustomed to life in Tel Aviv. And then there are, of course, all the Americans. So there's Julia, Danielle, Mika, Hannah, Leila, Bracha, Hunter. I could carry on. All of them are such talented people, budding filmmakers and dancers and bakers, and a knowledge engineer. I'm truly privileged to be part of this already flourishing class of 2018 and can't wait to see where you all go from here. Don't forget your friends from here when you become world-famous producers and filmmakers and chefs and knowledge engineers. We actually have one of those with us. As far as not forgetting goes, I cannot forget to acknowledge my strongest pillar of support, my little sister, Seher, who has made me laugh in times when I thought I couldn't. So let me tell you all one thing. Nobody ever feels like an adult. It's the world's dirty secret. The 20s are full of crossroads, and you're supposed to be uncertain about which path to take. It is important to keep moments of doubts just moments and keep yourself going. Like most of you, I have my fair share of doubts and uncertainty, but I'm certain of one thing. I'm certain of the life-changing experience that Tel Aviv University and life in Israel have provided me. I could not have asked for a greater stepping stone than this program, and I can't wait to see how these skills and experiences take me further and higher to wherever my chosen path may lead. To conclude, I would like to recite my adaptation of a poem that Adam, a classmate of ours and a very good friend of mine, wrote during one of our classes this semester. It touched my heart, and this is my message to you, to use these 3 years as a guide for your journey onwards. I do this out of love. I ask some things of you, if I may, to take these pretty flowers of knowledge and share them. Share them with your loved ones, share them with strangers. Place the bouquet of your determination and display them in the windows of your home, like a menorah that brightens for all to see. Don't be afraid to display yourself. Take the sweet ripened fruit that your mind has become and indulge in it. I beg of you that if you have found any seeds afterwards, to plant them, spread them, and nourish them with love and sunlight. Take your garden and make it into a beautiful forest, a place of growth and refuge. Wear the fine jewelry you have stored, protected, and have treasured the most, the mind that you have developed. When someone's curiosity is piqued or when you feel it is appropriate, give them your gold and silver. But most importantly, do not forget, some don't have the patience to grow their own seeds. Many do not appreciate the sun's warmth. Many have their own gardens destroyed by the weeds and birds. Be their light. Spread your light. Light is contagious, and I can't emphasize this enough. Even in the darkest of storms, we are always fascinated by the lightning. We marvel at it with great fear, but greater admiration. The fire that burns also warms. I pass you my light with love. Won't you pass yours? Thank you.
Thank you, Kripa. I'd like to invite our musicians, our talented musicians, to deliver another wonderful creation. Yasmin and Harrison. This one's going to be in Hebrew, according to my program.
Hello, hello, congratulations. Class of 2018. אל תפחד, תשאף לדעת, אל תדאג או תקיים. מי שבידו לגעת, יש בליבו עוד לנחם. אל תפחד, ימים יבואו ועונות שנה תחלוף. אתה תראה שעוד נגיע אל הסוף. אל תפחד ממציאות נושרת ואנשים קרים. כל אחד שורף בבטן ומיד שעליהם רואים. כמה כוח יש ברגע והנצר אין לו סוף. בכל דמה שעוד תרד יגיע צחוק. וזה הרגע, הנה בא השעה. מה תביא את הרוח, מה ימיס את הדממה, ויש סיבות לכל דבר, יש שלום שלא נגמר, בסוף הדרך עוד תהיה מאושר. וקדימה אל האופק, על השמש הטובה, זה רחוק אבל תגיע קצת עייף וקצת צמא לאהבה שמחכה לך, תקטוף אותה כפרי בשל ויאז תנוח תרדם בצל. וזה הרגע, הנה בא השעה. מה תביא את הרוח, מה ימיס את הדממה, ויש סיבות לכל דבר, יש שלום שלא נגמר, בסוף הדרך עוד תהיה מאושר. וזה הרגע, הנה בא השעה. מה תביא את הרוח, מה ימיס את הדממה, ויש סיבות לכל דבר, יש חלום שלא נגמר, בסוף הדרך עוד תהיה מאושר. בסוף הדרך עוד תהיה מאושר. אל תפחד, תשאף לדעת, אל תדאג או תקיים. מי שבידו לגעת יש בליבו עוד לנחם, אל תפחד ימים יבואו ועונות שנה תחלוף, אתה תראה שעוד נגיע אל הסוף. Thank you. Congratulations.
With me. It's time to hand out your almost diplomas. Bruce, if you'd like to take your spot by the podium, and we would like to, it's right there on the second podium with the diplomas, and if Professor Melecheme would like to join us at the presidential table. In her capacity as a Vice Dean, she is here to also pay her respect on behalf of the Faculty of the Humanities to our graduating class. So, without further ado, and before I call the first one, I just want to say to Kripa that your speech was absolutely wonderful, and I'm not ashamed to admit that we turned up a little bit. First one, Leila Khan. To Bruce first. Bruce. And Leila, and then come to us. Okay. And this is a present from the program to you guys. Niang Thomas Chen. Congratulations, Thomas. We're so proud of you. Mika Fox. Kripa Gandhi, okay. Daniel Ginsberg. Christina Jakob.
Just like the Nobel ceremony.
Julia Mann. Naama Rivlin. Alicia Rosen.
Gonna miss you guys.
Bracha Rosenberg. Hannah Rucker. Valerie Rourke Miller. Gabriela Smuckler. Hunter Weinshank. Now I'm gonna cry. And last but not least, Philip Wirtschafter. Dear class of 2018, as we bid you farewell on this special day, we would like you to know that you have every reason to be proud of yourselves. Going to university, especially in another country, requires discipline, hard work, determination, and an ability to handle pressure and stress. So well done. Some of you will stay in Israel for the next chapter of your life. Some are going away, but one thing is certain. You will always remain part of the BA family and Tel Aviv University. And we invite you to stay in touch with us via Alumni Association, LinkedIn profile, and other social networks. Let us know where life takes you. We can't wait to see and hear all about the great things that you'll be doing next. And now I invite you to stand up, please, class of 2018. Stand up. Is our photographer ready? Do the cap thing, come on. You can do that. Well done. You have completed. Yeah, throw the caps in the air. Ready.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to everyone. I feel like we should all break into a tisket, a tasket. I found my little blue basket. Congratulations and have a great evening, everyone. Celebrate.